have some breaking news for you on this program that I just learned about Dan Bongino and his future at the FBI. Because we know Dan, he's been a bit of a mentor to me, quite frankly. He's always been very helpful in our show, even calling me randomly to give me pointers on certain things. He's just been a wise advisor. He's always been good, and he's been solid. He cares a lot about this country, and he has a heart of gold and a very big heart. And he's somebody that wants to make it a better place. And the fallout from the Epstein saga, of course, caused Dan to say, it's going to be really tough to return to my show, to do what I love to do after all of this. If it really goes south, will people trust me? Because they don't trust this stuff, and we haven't done it in the right way.
Bombshell breaking news, folks. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's me, Kevin. Thanks for stopping by. And I've got a lot that I want to share with you. Today is July 15, 2025. And we've got a little bit of a recap here of what's been happening. Get you guys caught up to speed. Has Dan Bongino actually quit the FBI? Has he quit the Trump administration? Has he quit President Trump? Has he quit MAGA? Has he quit America? Has he quit us? Granted, he'll never quit his loyal followers and podcast subscribers, but he's himself said that it would be very, very difficult, next to impossible, to return after what has happened, unless there's some solution, unless there's some closure. That closure looks like not only would it be the release of the Epstein files, but it would be the elimination, resignation, perhaps maybe being fired, replaced Pam Bondi as Attorney General. And I've got so much more that I want to share with you guys. I've even got a special guest that I'm going to bring in on this. And I've got some other supporting evidence, some clips, some interviews, some accounts, some videos you may not have actually seen up to this point that really, really tell a story, paint a picture, more importantly, specifically about Dan Bongino, who he is as a person, this character reference, which I don't think any of us really need reinforcement here, but out of the parties involved, for which now Kash Patel has kind of been MIA, kind of been silent here. Between Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi, who do you trust? Who do you trust more? Who do you believe? And who do you want to see stay in the White House side by side with Trump, getting to the bottom of this? Or has your opinion and thought and trust and faith in President Trump been altered, swayed, changed, diminished? Let me know, guys. There's no right or wrong answer here. We just want the truth. Here we are, folks. It's another day. It's amazing. It's a beautiful day. And I hope that you guys are taking advantage of the opportunities that you have available to you. I will keep the number on the screen for you throughout the entire duration of this video. So if you or anyone you know is on Medicare or soon will be enrolling, feel free, reach out, give the folks at Chapter a call, and get your free Medicare help, free Medicare advice, and see how you can save some money, folks. On average, people are calling Chapter and in just a few short minutes saving thousands of dollars. And it's actually really, really simple, really easy, because Chapter is the only unbiased, non-biased. They're not doing this based on how much money they're going to make on commissions and pushy sales. No, they're the only ones that search every plan nationwide, and their advisors are unbiased. I mean, I think those two are some of the greatest strengths. I've got some comments here. One of them says, another comment here saying that they have saved over $1,000. Folks watching these videos, my videos, this channel, subscribers, some comments actually from my wife's channel. I finally called. Lori Wright says, I finally called Chapter and they helped me a lot. Thank you very much. Tammy Smith, listen to Michelle about Chapter. I turned 65 in August and called Chapter last month and actually talked to an American. She was very nice and helpful and saved me hundreds of dollars a month, which means her number was $338.07 a month, which means $4,056.84 a year. Before I read these other comments, I want to know what you guys would do with another $4,000 right now. What would you do? How would that change your lives? And just leave it in the comment section down below. Would you pay off some credit card debt? Would you invest in some assets like gold? Would you buy some more supplies and stock up? Would you replace the tires on your car or your truck? What would it be? Let me know in the comments. And Marilyn, she says, chapter is awesome, 3 exclamation points. I was a medical coder, and oh my goodness, the Medicare issue slays even me. I called and they will call me back in October. I love that you give those details about signing up. I think the strongest one there is the fact that you get a real person who actually cares and who you can understand because English is their first language. Cowboy 3906 says, I called chapter and they told me that I have the best coverage that I could have with my current capacity. Thank you for letting me get a checkup that I could trust. And that's just it, folks. Call chapter. And at the end of the day, no matter what, you're going to get good news. Think about it. Either they tell you you are in the very best possible place you could be, unbiased, not just trying to, manipulate or anything like that. And, or they say, well, here's a way you could save some money. I mean, how can you beat that? Peace of mind and money savings. Dial the number on your screen, 270-467-2426. I'll leave it down in the description. It'll be in the pinned comment. And yeah, 270-467-2426. Call our friends at Chapter. Tell them Kevin sent you. Tell them Michelle sent you. Either way, I'm sure you'll be glad that you did.
It was a little surprising to me that Saturday in May when I found out that Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, had discovered I was friends with a former executive who is a noted and admittedly controversial figure, but our friendship is entirely social in nature. And that relationship was enough to put a target on my back that Bongino made very clear was going to end my career.
How do you think, or do you know how he came to know that you're friends with Pete Strzok?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Repeat any of them, but those names are, all over the internet. And is that true or is it not true? There are all kinds of extravagant claims being made about other people being involved, other institutions being involved. And we either need to get to the bottom of whether that's true or we should put an end to all of the propaganda and the conspiracy theory. It's going to be very damaging for us if the president is going to proceed on falsehoods and conspiracy theory and then allow that to erode public trust. So I think there is something to what a lot of the Republicans are saying, that this needs to be done to restore public trust at this point.
But there are other social media influencers like Benny Johnson and the like who took to Twitter X over the weekend, really trashing President Trump, which we never see before, accusing him of hiding things, accusing him of not being honest about this list. And Trump's efforts to try to quell this storm, his Truth Social post, nearly 1,000 words over the weekend, did exactly the opposite.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. This is what we call pouring fuel on the fire President Trump posting on Truth Social last night. The post that broke the internet in two and has led to a nuclear ratio. We'll talk about that in just a moment. First off, what was the post saying? The post effectively says that Donald Trump admits that the Epstein files are real and that they exist and that we shouldn't see them because they were written by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden. Okay. Well, wait, what? Okay.
Now, of course, we have no idea what information, if any, this sociopath, this evil woman will ultimately reveal. But the fact remains that, especially after the humiliating display by Bondi and the DOJ we've all just witnessed, it's probably worth listening to Maxwell's testimony. If a client list exists at this point, she's the most likely person to tell us. Now, yes, it's an indictment of Pam Bondi and the DOJ that we see any reason to listen to a ghoul like this, but that's where we are. Millions of Americans are not satisfied with what we've been told. And we shouldn't be, because it's been contradictory and insulting to our intelligence every step of the way. So now we're looking elsewhere. This is what happens when people are deceived and strung along for years, only to be told that they're not entitled to any kind of transparency whatsoever. People are not just going to move on with their lives, no matter how badly you want them to. And there's a reason for that. And I want to make this very clear to those on the right, including the president himself, who are telling us to just drop the subject and move on. we can't drop it. We can't move on, because what we want is justice. We have a deep desire for justice. And we can see how the corrupt and the powerful are never held accountable. We can look at our cities and see violent criminals running rampant in the streets, also not held accountable. We want these evildoers to be punished. We want the innocent to be defended. We want justice. It's one of the most basic and most honorable of all human desires. We want to see that justice is done.
We go to Travis in South Dakota. Hello, Travis.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, Jason. I tell you what, guys, I feel really betrayed, and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this? Seriously? And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about the Hunter Biden laptop. He talks about all this stuff from 5-6 years ago, and he tells us to move on from the Epstein trial or the Epstein case. People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. If we do not stand up for the children of this country, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. And I tell you what, I've also lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that are prominent figures in this country because they are saying, you know what, this doesn't matter. Like Carrie Lake came out on Saturday. She's like, you know what really matters is election fraud and post-election fraud. It's like, you know what, the children of this country really, really matter. How can we just sweep them under the rug and not care? Move on, America, move on.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the stabbing?
Yeah, sure. If
could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure.
It's Epstein, the man who will never die, says President Trump. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers in the Biden administration?
Over the last few days, a number of members of your caucus have been posting and engaging in some of the discourse about Jeffrey Epstein. Is this appropriate for your members to be doing so? Do you want to see any action on that front?
The American people deserve to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as it relates to this whole sordid Jeffrey Epstein matter. Democrats didn't put the Jeffrey Epstein thing into the public domain. This was a conspiracy that Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and these MAGA extremists have been fanning the flames of for the last years. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. The American people deserve to know the truth.
This is President Trump then combining those files and saying that's the same thing as the Russia hoax and the intel agents hoax and the laptop from Health hoax, saying that the Epstein files are a hoax, a deep state creation. Well, that just made us more interesting, like seeing them, honestly.
I tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed, and they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them, but I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything. And let me tell you, a lot of them are, at least one of them is somebody who was accused. Others are accusers. And the judges have said, if somebody calls themselves a victim, we're not going to give any information about them, but they may not be victims. They may be perpetrators. So we don't have information about false accusers. And we know there have been many false accusers who have accused innocent people for money. And those records are being deliberately, willfully suppressed. And they shouldn't be suppressed. If the accusation is allowed out, so should the material that diminishes the credibility of the accuser. We want total transparency on this. Every single document, no redaction. That's what I've said from day one. I waive any of my rights of privacy. Anything there is about me, I'm happy because it will be exculpatory, because I know I haven't touched a woman other than my wife from the day I met Jeffrey Epstein. I don't even hug people, but I was falsely accused and I was able to prove it. And I was able to prove it through documents. And I want other people to be able to disprove false accusations through documents. But these documents are being suppressed and withheld.
Because Comey and Brennan are currently being charged for creating fake files right now. Hillary Clinton, of course, had to pay for creating fake files. People went to prison for that. And Barack Obama obviously has had his entire legacy tarnished by this. So if this is the case and they created more fake deep state files, it almost makes it more intriguing, actually.
Well, as we're recording this, Dan Bongino is threatening to resign if Pam Bondi does not resign as AG. What does that tell us, in your opinion?
Well, it tells us that Dan Bongino got shafted, completely shafted. And I'm saying this as a friend of his and someone who respects and likes him, but also just as an observer, an informed observer of it. So Pam Bondi, who's, by the way, I don't hate Pam Bondi. She's a totally nice person. If she was here, you would enjoy, I don't know if you know her, but she's a very nice person. I'm not against Pam Bondi in the slightest. But the fact is, she got on television on Fox News and started saying stuff like, I've got the client list on my desk. And actually, no, you don't. And I've got thousands of videos of Epstein having sex with kids. Well, actually, no, you don't. Most of the material was commercial porn taken off his computer. Like, that's just not true. Why did she say that? Probably because she's insecure and she's trying to please the audience, I would expect.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein.
I think she was thirsty for attention. I think she was enjoying the hits on Fox, on Hannity, on Waters, in the middle of the day with John Roberts, and saying, like, I've got all the answers on Epstein. I've got all the juicy dish, and I'll be the one to give it to you, until she either found out that wasn't true and realized this is why attorneys general don't talk like this ever about their ongoing investigations, ever. You almost never hear from attorney general. It's the one person in any administration, Republican or Democrat, who you really can't get. There's only so much transparency you're supposed to get from an attorney general, given the way criminal investigations work. And then realize, like, she had an oh shit moment of she's humiliated herself and the administration. Or again, I don't know, something else. Or it was real in the first place and now she's doing the lying. This, I don't know the truth on.
Do you think Dan is upset because his integrity is being questioned now over her mistakes?
Oh my gosh. So you're Dan and you're a media figure and you've got one of the biggest podcasts in the country and you're making tons of money and you're having a great time, which he was. You just built this brand new studio in Florida. You work with your wife, who you really like, which she does. And you get the call saying you'd be deputy FBI director. And you're like, I love Donald Trump. I love this country. I will, cut my pay by, into a tenth of what it was. And I will leave my house and move to DC, which is a kind of prison sentence itself. And I will do this because I love the president. I love the country. And you're there a few months. And all of a sudden, everybody thinks you're covering up Epstein's crimes. And it kind of wrecks Dan's career. Like, he can't go back. It's going to be very hard at this point. I mean, things may change, but as of today, pretty hard for Dan to go back to his podcast audience and be like, I'm telling you the truth, when they all think that he's covering up for Epstein.
Nobody has resigned over this. No one. I have an important message now, too. This is directed at the people who know. The people who know. I'm asking you as a friend. Life is calling, man. It's time to pick up the phone. Big people do big things. Small people do small things. The courageous are going to speak out. I don't want to hear lectures about, oh, my pension and my... I resigned and walked away from my job, and there was no guarantee anything was ever going to come out of it because I believed in something bigger, so you can spare me the lectures. You'll probably get whistleblower protection. Go get yourself a lawyer and speak out now. You're running out of time. Life's calling, man. Pick up the phone.
We want to know who else was in those awful videos that Pam Bondi told us about. And we want those people to be dragged in front of us, weeping and begging for mercy. We want them exposed and humiliated and shamed and punished in the harshest and most painful way, because that's justice. And we're not going to drop the subject until we get it. So unseal everything, including the search warrants and the financial disclosures. Tell us what exactly was in those truckloads of documents that you recovered in New York. Show us the phase 2 Epstein files that you told us about just a few months ago. In other words, don't give us any more excuses from bureaucrats on Fox News. Don't give us any more stonewalling and doublespeak. We've seen more than enough of that in this case and so many others. Instead, for a change, give us something we're not used to seeing from the federal government and the DOJ. Give us justice.
Well, I do think that there needs to be more transparency on this. And I think that will happen. I mean, look, I don't know what truly exists there, but I know that this is something that's important to the president as well. He does want transparency on all these fronts, everything we're talking about, because it's frustrated him as well. He sat for 4 years like the rest of us did and saw lie after lie and saw our country just being sent down the wrong path. And it was really frightening and very upsetting to a lot of people to see. And I would actually say over the past 10 years, we've all kind of endured this. Prior to that, it was probably happening, Benny, but we just weren't as aware of it. It wasn't until Donald Trump came down that golden escalator that he just kind of blew the doors off of everything. And people started to wake up and realize, wait a minute, things are not as they have always been presented to us. And I do believe that you will see that. Now, as it relates to the president, I know that this is probably not his number one thing he's focused on. He's focused on a lot of other important things. We've got this big announcement with Russia going on, I think, as we're speaking right now at the White House. We have, a Middle East. We're trying to get peace over there. We're trying to make sure that Iran's nuclear arsenal is obviously completely decimated. We want to make sure everything is on the right track for this country. Fortunately, you've seen no border crossings in the last month. 0, by the way. I think that's incredible. No one's talking about that enough. 0 illegal border crossings in the month of June. Amazing how that's all gone. So I don't know that this was top of mind for him, but he hears all the noise and he hears all of the consternation out there. And I think he's going to want to set things right as well. So I believe that there will probably be more coming on this. And I believe anything that they are able to release that doesn't, damage any witnesses or anyone underage or anything like that. I believe they'll probably try to get out sooner rather than later because they hear it and they understand it. So hopefully we see that happen sooner than later. And I guess that would be my advice. But to everybody out there who's all worked up about it, there's no great plot to keep this information away that I'm aware of. I do just believe that maybe it's been slow rolled for reasons that hopefully we understand down the line. And I think we're probably going to get more transparency on it very soon.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
Megyn Kelly essentially accuses Trump of, quote, directing Attorney General Pam Bondi in what she describes as a cover-up. What do you think of that theory?
Well, I don't know what is taking place behind the scenes. I would also find it very hard to believe, though, that Donald Trump wants to release it, but Pam Bondi is somehow defying his orders in not releasing it. And, I can think of dozens of reasons that Pam Bondi should be asked to resign, especially her complicity with, firing all of these January 6 prosecutors, which is outrageous. But this would not be a reason, I think, to demand Pam Bondi's resignation. Clearly, it's Donald Trump who's making the call here for whatever reason. He said he was going to release it, and now he's saying there's nothing to see here and appears to be wanting to sweep the whole thing under the rug. And I think that's an irresponsible way to proceed after having inflamed millions of people in the country and raised all kinds of doubts about our law enforcement commitment to prosecuting child sex abuse. I mean, if there are literally other people on this list who are somehow implicated in these actions, it is dangerous to public health and safety not to release the names publicly. If all of it is a concoction and an invention, then I think they need to come clean about that and say they don't have such a list or it's made up or what have you. But I think it's very dangerous just to leave these things hanging out there.
I mean, Truth Social, let's remember, this is a Donald Trump created and owned platform. This is the first time I've ever seen him be ratioed, meaning he got more comments, in this case, almost overwhelmingly negative comments, than he got likes and approval, stamps of approval for that post. There's real anger here. And as you noted, Joe, his post had so many, suggesting that there was no list, but yet it was written by the Democrats. He was talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I'm told, back to you guys here, there's some real panic in the White House right now. A lot of people have gone quiet. A lot of people have gone dark, but they recognize, those that are talking recognize right now, this is a problem. It's a first time they've had a problem like this, and they don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
Again, they're charging currently Comey and Brennan for doing this. So maybe you could charge somebody for this. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't seen the files, but the admission that they're real and that they are some massive hoax, and then to go on and say you can't see them, it doesn't. This is just going to make people want to see them even more. You know what I mean?
Is the government hiding a client list or anything that the Trump administration could release tonight?
No, there is no client list. There never has been a client list. A client list suggests that Jeffrey Epstein made a list of people to whom he trafficked women. What there is a redacted FBI affidavit from accusers. There are several of them. From accusers that accuse Jeffrey, that accuse various people of having improper sex. And that has been redacted. The names of the people accused have been blacked out. Now, of course, because I was the lawyer and I did all the investigations, I know who all these people are. I could figure out, based on everything that I saw, who Mr. X is, Mr. Y is, and Mr. Z. I can tell you right now, none of them are public figures who are currently in office. Some of them were previously in office. Some of them are dead. But there is no client list. And the redactions could be undone if you go to court. So many of the things that are being suppressed by two judges in Manhattan. And they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers who are, in the view of the judges, victims, even though we don't know what their actual status is. But the judges have issued orders, which is why I can't disclose things I'd love to disclose, saying that you can't disclose this information. But Pam Bondi and the Justice Department and Donald Trump are not responsible for that. I don't know of any information that they could disclose that they haven't disclosed. Now, maybe there is some, but I'm simply not aware of it. And so I think it's important to place the blame where the blame deserves to be placed. The vast majority of people who are in the files, and I know them all, I've seen all the names, the vast majority of them have already been disclosed. They're in articles all over the world. They're in books that have been written. So if we got everything, you would be shocked how few names are there that haven't already been disclosed. The media hasn't, by the way, done a good enough job in finding the people who have been disclosed in the public record. So that's that list.
So what's really going on here? I mean, what's really going on? Well, experts such as our friend Julie Brown from the Miami Herald, who's been covering Epstein for years, say that the notion of Epstein having an easy-to-access client list is likely a red herring. And that's what the Trump administration is relying on, that there likely isn't a list per se. But they are also now relying on the fact that because it's MAGA influencers who often put forward so many falsehoods, legacy news media won't push the point, that while there might not be a list, there are certainly files that can be released. There's a trove of information that the Trump administration is right now refusing to share. Information that could well point to the powerful folks who availed themselves of the sex trafficking victims of Jeffrey Epstein. If you go, for example, to the FBI vault online, you can see that there are 22 files containing thousands of pages. Most of them are heavily redacted. Now, sure, of course, redact the names and identifying characteristics of the victims. But why not make the victim and witness testimonies public? As Julie Brown points out, there's still so much we don't know from the investigations by U.S. attorneys in Miami and in New York, witness interviews in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New Mexico. Brown writes that there's still more evidence that hasn't been published, including, quote, Epstein kept video cameras in most of his residences, and Epstein's autopsy, nor the report of the investigation into his death, has ever been made public. So while there may not be an official client list to be released, as the administration is now saying, there's a lot of extra information that is not being made public, despite Trump's Justice Department basically now saying case closed. This isn't going to go away. The public, you're being played for fools here.
Okay, so they created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Steele dossier that they used on me, and now the so-called friends are playing right in my friends are playing right into their hands. Of course, he's probably referring to everyone from Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Anna Paulina Luna, and a ton of people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon. Pretty much the entire MAGA base is calling for the release of these files now, and I'm not sure that this puts the issue to bed. In fact, I think that it does the exact opposite. Because just days ago, we were told that the files didn't exist, like, at all. Like, there is no list, there are no files. But now we're being told that there are files, but we can't see them because they were created by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. You know, again, like, that's an incongruent story, right?
Who did that? Pam Bondi did that. And I don't know that she did it on purpose. I'm assuming not. I don't think she's a mean person. I've never gotten that sense. But for whatever reason, she went out there and said things that were not true, that she could not back up. And then they issued this memo thinking that it would clear everything up.
That was embarrassing.
And I guess they're just so dumb, they didn't realize that if you tell everybody you have the tapes of these crimes and then you issue a memo saying you're not going to prosecute anybody for the crimes, what are you saying? I'm covering up for the perpetrators of these crimes. Duh. They have no one with an IQ over 80 over there to read the memos? Are you kidding? You know, I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but I do know that it leaves a guy like Dan in a horrible position.
Yeah.
And he loves Trump. And I don't think Trump had any knowledge of any of this at the detail level. And so he doesn't, I mean, what do you do if you're Dan Bongino? I feel for him. What is Trump going to do? I don't know. I do think that I think they know that they have to do something. I think it's absolutely fair to ask, to what extent was Epstein involved in a foreign intelligence operation on our soil? This is our country. This country doesn't belong to any foreign country. Okay, this is our country. I was born here. I pay taxes here. So if some foreign country, I don't care if you claim it's our ally or not, is running an intel operation on my soil, I have a right to know what that was. And don't make me feel like I'm some kind of Nazi for asking. I'm an American. I have an absolute right to know that. And they're clearly, that is what is being covered up because it makes everyone so uncomfortable.
I was at the White House that day when Pam Bondi gave out those white binders. I was one of the ones who received that binder. So when you say before I'm invested in this, yeah, I am invested in this because what she did made me look like I was adding to some kind of clickbait weirdo influencer thing online, which I don't do. People that watch me know I'm very prudent. I don't engage in hot takes. And I gave her the benefit of the doubt. You give the benefit of the doubt to people on your own side. I thought, okay, I don't know why she gave us those binders if she didn't have good stuff in those binders, but she said there was another story. A whistleblower told her there were truckloads of documents. Hopefully she'll produce. And I gave her time. I was patient. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. But here's the thing, Chris. That day in the White House, Pam Bondi bragged about making that cover sheet on that binder that you're showing on the screen. That cover sheet that reads the most transparent administration in history. Epstein Files Phase 1. She told us she made that. She printed it. She put it in that binder. How can you square that behavior with what she posted on the Department of Justice website on Sunday saying, actually, there's nothing here?
So, it has to be one or the other. And Matt Walsh, I think, kind of sums it up really nicely here. Matt Walsh, back from vacation and just sounding off on this this morning, the Attorney General said that she had the client list on her desk. The White House made a big show of giving binders marked the Epstein Files Phase 1 to a bunch of influencers. Now they tell us that there is no list and that we should stop talking about it. Well, then why did they say that there was a list? And why did they pull a stunt with influencers? And why did you call it phase one? Obviously implying that there are more phases. If you claim that this all seems normal and above board and honest, you're being extremely obtuse. We're Americans and we don't accept the obvious bullshit from our political leaders, and we don't move on from a topic just because we're instructed to do so. Again, this is going to be a Streisand effect. The Streisand effect, obviously named after Barbara Streisand, screaming at people, don't post photos of my house. What is that going to do? It's going to make people say, I'm going to post photos of your house. Don't walk on the grass. It's going to make you want to walk on the grass, right? Let Pam Bondi do her job, says President Trump. The radical left inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. He's saying that they're spent. The Epstein documents are created by the radical left. This is what President Trump just says here. And that they're the same as every other hoax. So stop wasting time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Okay. So here we go. Now, this is the interesting thing, is because people do care about him. One, Dan Bongino cares so much about this that he's allegedly quit. The reporting is that Dan Bongino is no longer at his job. We'll see. I don't know. I've tried to check in. Dan Bongino clashes with Attorney General over the handling of the Epstein files. I mean, if nobody cares about him, then why is Dan quitting? I mean, obviously, we're huge supporters of Dan. We're huge supporters of the entire administration. This is just nothing but tough love from a friend. You know, there's a friend trying to help you out, like, and say, no, actually, like, the base does care. Trust me, the base does care. I was just in a room with 7,000 screaming MAGA supporters who really care about this. The number one applause line that I got was me calling for the Epstein list to be released. And that goes for every other speaker throughout the entire Turning Point Action Conference that's going on right now in Tampa.
We got reports today. CNN says Bongino's still in limbo as Trump fumes and J.D. Vance seeks to play mediator. Guardian says asks who is Dan Bongino, FBI deputy at center of MAGA fallout over Epstein files. USA Today, Trump says FBI's Dan Bongino is in good shape amid Jeffrey Epstein probe. Conflict between Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino goes public, adding to Team Trump. And Dan Bongino, according to the Daily Beast, backs down in bitter Epstein MAGA civil war. Nick Sorter posted this, and he says, just in, Dan Bongino was at the FBI offices yesterday, fulfilling his duties as deputy director per CNN. Great news. Dan Bongino must stay put at FBI. And Benny Johnson says, confirmed. A top FBI source tells me Dan Bongino's locked back in at the FBI and working on something very important. And I've read multiple comments on videos yesterday saying similar statements of, and this one here today, it's Tuesday, Dan is back at the White House. The fact that the mainstream media has been relatively silent about the idea that Dan is back maybe points to the truth that he is back.
According to CNN and Grok yesterday, because I asked Grok, I was like, hey, what's up with Dan Bongino? Grok, give me a little information, especially now since the White House is paying $200 million to use Grok for their defense, whatever.
That's a stupid idea.
I thought it would be interesting to ask Grok about Dan Bongino, because clearly they should know, or it should know. And Grok said that Dan Bongino has been MIA since July 11th, and this was yesterday. I asked it yesterday around 5 p.m. Said he had not been heard from or seen in the White House or in the FBI offices or anything else. And then immediately afterwards, Benny Johnson posted, I just confirmed that Dan Bongino was in his FBI office at work today, meaning Monday, around 5 o'clock when Grok said he wasn't, and is working on something very important. Dan was in a positive mood after further internal movement toward Epstein disclosures and transparency. Trump team is back together and locking in.
All right, so granted, he could have been back in his office working on something very important, emptying out his desk.
Yeah, that is possible. But the fact is CNN and Grok both claimed that he had not stepped foot inside an office.
You would think that if he were back and MAGA was back, the band was back, the gang's back together again, Trump would have been shouting that? He would have posted it?
No.
There would have been some sort of video footage.
No.
There would have been a response to the media.
No.
Caroline Leavitt would have said something.
No. You know why? Because in the beginning, when this released memo came out from Axios, Trump didn't say anything. Caroline Leavitt didn't say anything. Bondi Bongino. Patel didn't say anything about any of it for the first 48, 72 hours, I think. And then even after all of that, it was acknowledged, but not in a sense of enough acknowledgement to confirm that it was real. Like, it was a very weird situation. So it all feels a little playing cat and mouse to me right now.
Raw's Alerts says breaking House Republicans have blocked an effort by Democrats to force the release of the Epstein files.
Which is interesting because the Democrats had the Epstein files for how many years and didn't release them? So why would they want to push for it now after Trump administration came out and said there's nothing worth showing?
Congress is attempting to prevent Ghislaine Maxwell from disclosing Jeffrey Epstein's client list, per Daily Mail. Maxwell's ready to tell the American people the truth about Jeffrey Epstein's client list before Congress, and a source told the outlet Maxwell is happy to sit before Congress and tell her story. Quote, despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. She would be more than happy to sit before Congress and tell her story, and no one from the government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection to Epstein, and she would welcome the chance to tell the American people the truth. Maxwell was convicted in 2022 for her role in exploiting and abusing minor girls with Epstein, and last week the Trump DOJ claimed there was no client list. Trump also said that nobody cares about Epstein, suggesting we should just move on.
What's interesting is, once again, the Democrats could have talked to Maxwell numerous times throughout the years upon years upon years that they were in the driver's seat of the country and did not.
Candace Owens laughing out loud about the idea in response to President Trump's Truth Social post on July 12th. And she says, or asks, Barack Obama wrote the Epstein files? This is outright embarrassing, she says.
Well, you have to wonder if, while they were in the possession of the Democrats, if they were tweaked, because there's no way to know what's real and not real anymore once you've changed hands. It's like that game telephone. You tell something to somebody at the front, let it go down the line of 100 people, and by the time you get to the other end, it's a completely different message. Same thing could have happened with all of these Epstein files. They were in the hands of people who probably, in theory, did not have the best interest of our country at heart. They could have changed numerous things to hide themselves and save themselves. But if there was something in there incriminating against President Trump, they would have flown with that during the race against Kamala Harris.
You mean to tell me that there's people out there that accidentally or intentionally misinterpret or take things out of context? You were mentioned on Diary of a CEO yesterday. That's crazy.
It would have been cool as shit if I had been.
Raw's Alert also says President Donald Trump claims that Hillary Clinton, James Comey, and the Biden administration created the Epstein files, suggesting they may not even be real. I feel like whatever it is or could be would have already been leaked.
100%.
If Signal Chat can get leaked, if emails can get leaked, if all these other things can get leaked, if would-be attempted assassins can just walk into a rally and climb on top of one of the steepest sloped metal roofs known to man, like, I feel like an Epstein file can easily be released by, what was it? Couple years ago, some like 21-year-old leaked top secret military documents, like on his first day on the job.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I remember, but I don't remember enough about it.
And it's just like, who's got a damn pit bull guarding the Epstein files? But then it almost feels like this is an instance of lockjaw. Once that pit bull gets a bite of you, right?
Yeah.
It's never letting go. Well, you know who the pit bull is in this scenario? MAGA influencers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're locked on. And they're not letting go. And this could be a great strategy by the left.
Oh, 100%, because you have the interim whatever's coming up. And, of course, it's designed to... the left started all this just to watch again, Trojan horse is the word I like to use, just to watch the right implode because they are pushing it so hard.
I called a number of people with direct knowledge of this, and this was Dan's frustration, is that the disclosures were not great, and the way that it was handled and the way that it was released was not great, and that he was being blamed in part for it. And so Dan didn't show up to work and sort of gave an ultimatum to President Trump and said, hey, listen, Pam Bondi either goes or I go. And he and Pam Bondi had quite a bit of a blow up at the White House on Wednesday. Dan hadn't showed up to work since. I don't want to see Dan go. Neither did the American people, by the way.
It's Bongino or Bondi. He's not
Who
saying...
would you guys prefer, Bongino or Bondi? Okay, 7,000 to 0.
They want Dan.
I just did some phone calls, and I found out that Dan Bongino not only is back working at the FBI, that cooler heads have prevailed here, that Dan is actually working on something very, very important, and also everything's changed. There is a positive mood for Dan, according to my source, after further internal movement towards Epstein disclosures and transparency. Trump team is back together and locking in. That's what I was told directly by my source. But this is what else I got from another source. There are some big things happening that we may not be able to see right now, but it's been very positive. All of you in the comment section, posting on X, writing right here, letting your voice be heard in whatever way that you do that, it's worked. Further sources confirm to me there's going to be a major change in approach to the way that this Epstein file will be handled by the administration. Expect more disclosures. Very powerful people inside the admin are now pushing for a special counsel. Full press briefing on Epstein findings. Important to note that this drastic change happened after our voices were heard, but also Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and a number of other people, Charlie Kirk, really locking in and giving some tough love to the administration over this. They were met with massive roars and applause from the 7,000 gathered and could not be ignored. In short, our voices are being heard and empowered to the people.